Okay, we'll move on to the regular meeting of the Urbana City Council. It's Monday, August 12th, 2024. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu? Here. Mr. Evans?
Here.
Ms. Hersey? Ms. Colasetti? Here. Ms. Bishop?
Here.
Ms. Wilkin? Mr. Quisenberry?
Here.
Mayor Marlin?
Here. Next item of approval of minutes from several previous meetings. The first is July 15th, 2024, Committee of the Whole. The second is August 5th, 2024, rescheduled City Council, and August 5th, regular Committee of the Whole minutes. Is there a motion for approval?
I move approval of those 3 meetings minutes.
Is there a second?
Second. Go ahead and get Shonda.
Is that Mary Alice? Okay. Okay. Any substantial corrections? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion passes. There are no additions to the agenda scheduled. Oh, yes?
I'd like to pull one item off the consent agenda.
Okay.
B, 1B, ordinance number 2024-0828.
Well, that'll move from consent to regular. We'll move on to public input. Does anyone wish to address the Urbana City Council? Seeing none. Council input and communication. James.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering, to the degree that it is possible and advisable, if we could get an update on what's going on with the U-Cycle program.
Yes. Carol has some information for you.
So the residential and multifamily U-Cycle collection services have been suspended for the time being because the contractor is out of compliance with the contract. And the plan is they may come back into compliance. They have 2 days to do so. But staff is working on an emergency procurement that would get somebody in place as early as next week. They're optimistic about that, but you know, until we know what direction we're going, it's hard to say for sure. In the meantime, people, if they want to drop off their recycling, if they can't accumulate it at their residence, they can drop certain recycling materials off at Illini Recycling at 420 Paul Avenue in Champaign. You have to separate it into different types, and they don't take glass or plastic bags. There's more detail about that on our website and social media, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have specifics.
Hope to get that resolved as soon as we can. We'll move on to reports of standing committees. We have none, and we'll go on to Committee of the Whole report. Chris.
On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I would like to move the consent agenda, ordinance number 2024-08-027, an ordinance authorizing a First Amendment to option to lease agreement, landfill solar lease, and move that for approval.
There's a second.
Second.
Moved by Chris, seconded by Chandra. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Colasetti?
Yes.
Ms. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
That motion passes.
On the regular agenda, I would like to motion ordinance number 2024-08-28, an ordinance amending the Urbana zoning ordinance, replace B-3U with CMU zoning district and update development regulations, plan case number 2485-T-24, and motion that ordinance for approval.
There's a second.
Second.
Moved by Chris, seconded by Jaya. Further discussion. Mary Alice?
So I think I said my piece at the last meeting. I did want to vote for the lease agreement for the landfill, and so the reason I pulled it off is because I'm not going to vote for this, but I wanted to vote for the other one. Thank you.
Understood. Any other discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu?
No.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Colacetti?
Yes.
Ms. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you, Chris. Reports of special committees, we have none. We'll move on to reports of officers, which includes an update from the Urbana Police Department.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Chief Boone, could you introduce the folks you have with you, staff?
Next slide.
Okay, great, thank you.
Typically, I like to give you guys a quarterly overview. This is the second one for the year, I believe. So we'll start with the next slide. The folks I have here with me. Naturally, you know me. I'll be giving a gun overview as it relates to Urbana. Interim Deputy Chief Bain will do the typical Part 1, people crime, Part 2, property crime overview. Executive Lisa Curtis will provide a financial review. There was so much energy surrounding budget, I thought it'd be prudent that folks kind of understand how we manage our funds. And internally, we kind of do a more robust activity to ensure that we are spending funds requested, sort of like a financial CompStat. But for your purpose, we'll do this at the end of every fiscal year, or towards the end, and beginning of every fiscal year, so that you can see for yourselves how we are spending funds. And lastly, a wellness review by Interim Lieutenant Zach Mikulik. I thought that was prudent considering the awful event most recently occurred, and kind of give you an idea of how we prepare our officers by way of their mindset and training that goes involved in that. So next. So what you're seeing here is a map that I started when I arrived, try to get a better understanding of gun activity here in Urbana. This is just year to date. There's a more holistic map that includes 2023 as well. So shootings with injuries, there are 8 year to date. Shootings without injuries, there's 23. Armed robbery with a firearm, there's 14. Aggravated assault, threatened firearm, there's 16. Seized firearms, there's 36. I kind of like to highlight that, because when you're talking about seizing a firearm, it's not merely picking it up off the ground, it's taking it off someone. And that speaks to our training, it speaks to our ability to de-escalate without injury or harm. I can tell you I've seen at least 3 videos since I've been here where deadly force could have been used, but was not used. The officers relied on their compassion and training and was able to render the incident without injury or harm. Stolen firearms, they speak for themselves. Recovered firearms, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back to stolen firearms, there's 12. Recovered firearms, there's 7. And relinquished firearms, there's 20. So, I spoke earlier about this is merely a year-to-date map. I didn't want to overwhelm you by including 2023 activity as well. But the end goal of this is establishing a storyline as to how gun crime and how guns flow in Urbana. Every city has a story. You don't know it unless you capture the data. Historically, police departments across the nation, if there was a crime involving a gun, we would solve the crime, but we wouldn't really do a lot of investigation into the gun. That's important. The who, what, where, and how. So I can almost guarantee you by the end of this time next year, we'll know who's impacted by gun violence the most, how guns are flowing into the community. Is there an issue with a particular location that is selling guns by way of straw purchases? And how do we go about educating the community so that we can impact it some way? Then there needs to be a discussion about technology, because I guarantee you the more this data that we capture and make available for public consumption, we have a moral obligation to do something. Any questions on that? If not, I'll go to the next slide.
I don't have a question on what you just said, but I had a question on recovered versus, can you go back?
Relinquish?
Yes.
So there's some folks that
Or
are,
not relinquish. I imagine people just give up their guns for whatever reason. Someone died, here's a gun. Stolen firearms and recovered. So are the recovered ones from the stolen count, or that's reports of people who had their guns stolen?
stolen are stolen.
Okay.
They made a report that their gun was stolen. We recovered that gun. Recovered is simply we came in contact with a gun.
Okay.
Okay, not necessarily reported stolen.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. So what you see here is all 2023 that captures homicides, shootings with injury. 2023, we had 3 homicides, shootings with injury. There was 10 shots fired, no one hit. There was 30. Now that's the whole year of 2023. Year to date of 2023 compared to where we are today is almost identical. When you look at year-to-date 2023, there were 2 homicides, shootings with injuries, there were 5, and shots fired, no one hit, there were 19. What's alarming to me right now, with the number of guns that we are seizing, the number of guns that we're coming into contact with, I can almost guarantee you that we will surpass all of 2023 with respect to shootings. Now, homicides, you don't know. Any police chiefs will tell you homicides are important because one loss of life is important, but shootings tell the tale of your city. If these folks could shoot, the homicide rate would be much larger. And that's not just here in Urbana, that's anywhere. The moment you pull a trigger, that bullet's going somewhere. So I'm concerned about that, and as I said previously, we have to have a conversation once we have a good understanding of the flow of guns in this community and who's responsible and who's impacted by it. What do we want to do about it? Now, I've done some research on the state of Illinois. The laws surrounding guns is really phenomenal. They're ranked number 4 in the nation in terms of gun legislation. The problem is the surrounding states aren't that great. If you go to the name of the Gabby Giffords gun prevention website, they rate each state by way of gun laws. And there's only like 11 states in the nation with an A or better, A- or better rating. And Illinois is number 4 out of the nation. Some of the surrounding states, you know what they are. They're like F and D. And I suspect that's how a lot of the guns are getting into the wrong hands. But what you have to do once you establish that and what institution that are providing these guns, you have to involve ATF to take a look at them. And you have to develop data that says James Quisenberry Gun Shop is responsible for 95% of guns distributed here in Urbana. That's typically, from my experience, how it works. And then you get the ATF to take a look at them to change behavior. Because the gun laws are really phenomenal in this state. Compared to where I'm from, much better.
Good evening, everyone. We'll move on to our year-to-date crime stats. You should all be familiar with this dashboard now, as we have been sending it out regularly. We're going to keep it until the just year-to-date comparison here, so you can see where we were in 2023 as compared to now. August 10th was the latest information that we could get in time for tonight. For violent crimes, we have identified homicide, rape, robbery, and all assault and batteries. That's to include domestic battery and non-fatal shootings. So all those numbers are there for you with a percentage of change. Green shows that the number has gone down, and red shows that the overall number year-to-date comparison has gone up. Below that, we have property crimes. We have identified those as burglaries to include residential burglary, theft to include retail theft and burglary from a motor vehicle, and motor vehicle theft. Again, year-to-date comparison from 2023 to this year. I want to apologize for this map. We made it as big as we could to fit it on the slide. Our wonderful crime analyst, Melissa Hendren, struggled with this, and we talked today, and this is the best she could do. But this includes all the violent crime. Again, homicide, rape, robbery, assault and battery, domestic battery, and non-fatal shootings. Each one of those is comprised of a different icon. And there, you'll notice that there's a lot of overlapping. Hopefully we have a future slide that will kind of break some of this down, because this is very hard to read, but you can see that the disbursement of these violent crimes. If you'll notice, will you back up one, Lisa? If you'll notice, there was a homicide listed, and Chief just said there was no homicides. That's because this homicide did not include a gun. Chief was speaking directly toward gun crimes, just to clear that up. Thanks, Chief. The next graph just shows, again, where we were in 2023 for violent crime. Just to give you a block, we were about 60 ahead of where we were last year. That's total. Same thing for the property crime map. I apologize, it's as big as we could make it. This shows all the property crimes: burglary, residential burglary, theft, retail theft, burglary to motor vehicle, which is BMV, and motor vehicle theft, all represented by the appropriate icon. Same graph for property crimes. We're down on property crime year to date. This is the map I was referring to. It's zoomed in. The purple area is considered a hot spot, and the darkest purple that you will see at the bottom is the area of Vaughter, Silver, that immediate intersection, like the 2000 block of Philo Road, the surrounding area from that, and then the light purple one is Aspen Court, which is Hunter, Learman, Ivanhoe Way, that neighborhood. This slide goes with the purple map. That area contains 30% of all violent crime in Urbana for 2023. Those two purple, I'm sorry, 24. Those two purple dots is what I'm referring to. There's been 166 police reports with Part 1 violent crimes that we have identified. 83 of those are domestic battery, which contributes to 50% of that. Also, those include 10 robberies and 14 non-fatal shootings in those two areas.
Sorry.
Question?
We have a question. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was wondering if you could go back to the first map that you had with the violent crimes distribution. It was the first one that you said you tried to blow up. My question pertains to, actually, it's fine, you can leave this one here. You know, Urbana has a large part of the University of Illinois. The University of Illinois has their own police department. I see that there are a few, it's sporadically on the map at the University of Illinois properties. How is that divided up? Is that where you're called for that specific crime? Is it something you work in tandem with the University of Illinois? I was wondering if you could speak to that.
So we only take reports in our jurisdiction. So if a crime happened in an Urbana jurisdiction, that's what we do reports on. There are some instances where it's very sporadic, if you will. This street is ours, but the building is the university's. So this isn't exact. But if a crime happened on university property, the university police department will take that report. If it happens on the city of Urbana's jurisdiction, whether that's a street, the sidewalk, not university property, then we take it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to go over the financial highlights for fiscal year 2024. We are going to start by going over the overtime budget and expenditures. If you guys can look towards the bottom of the slide, you'll see that I've broken it up into three fiscal years, 2022, 23, and 24. On the left-hand side, you'll see the original budgeted amount, and then to the right, you'll find the expenditures. And if you just look up to the top, you'll see that blue is our patrol division, the orange is our criminal investigation or CID, and then gray is our services division. One of the things that I want us to kind of take away from this chart is if you look over the past 3 fiscal years, our overtime expenditures for, at least for 22, have gone up 26.3%. For fiscal year 23, they went up 33.6%, and in our last fiscal year, they went up 43.6%. And we're going to kind of move on to our above budget asks for last fiscal year. Of all of our above budget asks, we were okayed for 4 of them. That was additional training funds for our patrol division, additional training funds for CID or our investigators. We received funds for wellness, and then also our body-worn camera replacements. And if you'll kind of take a look at those purple slides, I'm going to show you something in the next one. So I kind of combined the training funds for patrol and CID. Roughly our beginning budget for the two was about $54,000, $100,000. With the okay to approve budget from council, we received an additional $50,000 between patrol and CID. It gave us a revised budget of roughly around $104,000, and we were actually able to spend almost all of that with about $103,000 on training. When we asked for these funds, is that we wanted to send our officers to more state mandated training. With the additional funds that you guys provided to the department, all of these were state mandated training that we were able to send most all of our patrol division, our criminal investigation division, and then any command staff. Just a couple example, we sent them to civil rights training, de-escalation techniques, psychology of domestic violence. Some additional training with the funds that we have. Here are some additional not state mandated training that we were also able to send our officers and our investigators to. Third, we have our body-worn camera replacement. We originally had about $264,000. Council provided us with an additional $100,000. We were still a little short on funds, so we did reallocate some existing funds to help get us to our total of about $482,000, which was just what we needed to purchase our body-worn cameras. I'm going to pass this over to Lieutenant Mikulik to go over wellness.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Mikulik, services lieutenant, and one of the things I set out to do was use our wellness money and congruent with our training funds to help our officers. I was able to go to several classes and training to devise a plan. We built this, or building it from the ground up. We wanted to take an approach where we use some preventative measures on officers, and then also some things for after incidents occurred, provide them with resources for both. So as a preventative measure, we use the service provider, It's in Your Head, to provide 2 hours of training at our annual training for all of our officers. And then we got an app that's through Power DMS, which is a company we've used before. They have a Power Line app designed specifically for police officers. It provides anonymous usage for officers, peer support, wellness resources, and training.
All right, so this is dovetailing into the new fiscal year, some of the things that you all approved for us. Social worker, we currently have an RFP out for contract in the hopes of pushing forward alternative police response. CopLogic, Interim Deputy Chief Bain sent you all an email that kind of highlight what that is in terms of also helping the calls for service with respect to our patrol division so that they can be available for some of the higher level type calls. Staffing, 4 new FTEs positions were approved, and we currently have 2 offers out for the upcoming PTI Academy. DFE, that's Digital Forensic Examiner, as well as CIA. They work in tandem in terms of identifying trends with respect to gun violence, the gun map. They're going to be largely responsible for all the data analysis that point us to a specific location, whether it's here locally or abroad. Now, that's great. Unfortunately, you know, just received that we may be losing 3 officers in the coming weeks. It's strike that, not may, we will be losing 3 officers in the coming weeks. And that's going to impact our ability to stand up some of the things we wanted to do with respect to community relations. It won't impact all those things, but it certainly will impact our ability to start the way we want it to start. Next. Barry Dunn recommendation, 7 patrol officers, 6 CSRs. That recommendation was based on their analysis, their research. That was their outcome based on that, which is one of the reasons I did not provide that data in my ask. I mean, we paid for Barry Dunn to do that. Why should I do it all over again? And just based on anecdotal experience, I was pretty close to the recommendation. Budgeted for fiscal year 25, we have not realized the deputy chief just yet, but you have approved it, and I thank you, as well as the training sergeant and the 2 community engagement officers. Next. Questions?
Mary Alice.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you. It's very interesting to hear. Sometimes we don't hear until there's a budget ask, so it's nice to hear on a cadence of just updates in terms of where we stand. So I wanted to thank all of you for providing us this information tonight.
I like to involve all folks within the department. It's not just on the police chief. There's some brilliant minds in this department, and I like to present them with an opportunity to be seen and be heard. So this is just part of my way of involving them. There was a question somewhere?
James.
Sorry, it's not a question. It's just, I want to thank you for the continued commitment to communicating the data of what's going on and how you're seeing it.
Sure.
I think it's essential to inform the community on what's going on, and when you share what your vision looks like as to how to address those things, I think it builds understanding, and it's positive.
I hope you didn't mind me using you as an example.
It was amusing. I did not mind it at all. I'm the last person that would have a gun shop, so I didn't take it the wrong way.
Thank you.
Chris.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation tonight, and I do like the quarterly updates. Few questions. Are we sticking to the gold and blue teams?
The gold and blue team, you're talking about platoons? Yes, sir.
Okay, so how many patrol officers are on duty in a 12-hour shift nowadays?
4 to 5.
4 to 5 still.
Yeah.
We're doing the 5 geographical beats and.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, let me get organized here. So, I want to refer to the gun maps. Where do I want to start? How many of the gun activity incidents were officer initiated?
I would say, that's hard to say off the top of my head.
Yeah.
If I had to take a guess, officer initiated by way of a encounter. Is that what you're asking?
Right.
You're
I'll differentiate it this way, Chief.
Okay.
911 calls from the community.
Right.
Or an officer
Versus
says, I see something.
Reasonable suspicion, right?
Right,
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. That's hard to know off the top of my head. I'm looking at the seized 36 guns as probably being a component, but the exact number, I don't know that. I can get that for you if you want.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess, okay, so what, okay, I got that done. How many of the gun activity incidents were subsequent to a traffic stop? And again, that's probably something you're not tracking, but,
No, I can get that for you.
Okay.
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 That's fairly easy to gather.
okay. And then related to that, how many of the gun activity incidents were subsequent to a stop and frisk?
Again, that's fairly easy to get.
Okay. Okay.
I know where you're going with this, but I would say this. If there was something nefarious or not within the Constitution, I would hope one would complain about it, first of all. Two, body-worn camera will capture something of that nature. And I don't believe that's the issue. I believe, based on multiple body-worn cameras that I've seen thus far, these officers are acting highly professional, particularly when it involves a gun. They take different type of steps in terms of their training, in terms of analyzing, and they should be commended for that.
How many of the seized guns were obtained inside someone's residence?
I don't know that.
And then complement question to that is how many were taken off a person in their
Right,
clothes?
right,
right.
right.
And again, I'm just trying to understand the gunplay in Urbana, like you're
Right,
providing.
and like I
Yeah.
said, at this time next year, I'll have all that. It'll be, I have a model that I established back east. I just don't have enough sample size right now to say definitively
Yeah.
X, Y,
And
Z.
what I'm giving you right now is just the questions that come to my mind looking
Sure.
at the maps.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question. Okay, so let me ask you, how many, I know you can't completely answer this question, but by what right are Urbana officers seizing guns? And I know there's a number of laws what makes an illegal possession of a gun, but off the top, can you kind of give a general on how are Urbana officers able to seize guns?
You asking for examples in which they can legally seize a gun?
Oh, well, I'm asking what's the prevailing pattern, if you've been able to establish that.
You
yeah.
know, I would say robbery involving a handgun, doing a stop of a suspect shortly after a robbery with a handgun. I'm telling you videos that I've seen.
Right, right.
Those are some of the examples that jump out.
Okay. Do we have a general sense of how many arrests the gun map represents yet, or is that?
I don't know that.
Don't know that,
Yeah.
okay.
Would you like to see that part of the gun map?
I would. I mean, I think, because it just looks like this is happening and nobody sees, and this is how many arrests we made in reaction to that. I think it just would, I don't know, it would somewhat give people a sense that, and something's being done about it. You're not just saying, here it happened, and then there's something happening.
All right, certainly we.
Yeah, yeah.
are
No, and I
arresting
know,
folks.
we just don't see it is all I'm saying, Chief. Not, I know something's happening, but I just thought it would be helpful to see, people could see how many arrests. And that's enough questions for now. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Comments?
All right, folks, just to let you know, Bridget has worked extremely hard with ICP, as well as Lieutenant Mikulik and Dr. Cunningham, myself, and the rest of the staff regarding a article that's coming out September, October, in Police Chief Magazine regarding our clergy patrol. Doesn't cost anything. We just have to simply provide some pictures of the vehicle, of the pastors that have volunteered to participate, and I look forward to that article and sharing it with you all as soon as it hits the news. So, yes, ma'am.
I saw that you'll be doing Coffee with a Cop later this month. Would you
Yes.
like to talk about that for the public as well?
That was me. I set that up for him. When we were doing Jetty Roads Day, one of I guess she was like a community liaison for McDonald's, came up to us and said that a lot of other departments have done Coffee with a Cop, and they wanted to include Urbana. So it's kind of new for us. We're going to be doing it on August 27th from 8 to 10 a.m. at the McDonald's over on Philo Road.
Yeah, what I really like about the individuals in this department, they aren't afraid to walk in their authority. There's a lot of things that Lisa directs me to, or the deputy chief directs me to, and that's how it should be. You know, I'm still learning the community, and as you should know, I don't have a problem going anywhere. I'm very comfortable around all folks, but I just like the idea that they are continuing to point me in spaces that I hadn't had an opportunity to visit just yet. So.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And can you share this PowerPoint with council? Great, thanks. The last item on the agenda is a reappointment to the Urbana Arts and Culture Commission, and this is for Lisa Fuller for a term ending June 30th, 2027. Ms. Fuller's statement stated, quote, "I've been a resident of Champaign County for many years, lived in the state of Illinois my entire life. I'm an active artist and teacher in the community. I have been the recipient of 4 Urbana Arts grants and received funding to work with adults with dementia, as well as retired adults. In all of the places I have lived, Champaign County's support of the arts has been the highlight. I've never seen a community come together to celebrate all types of art and culture for everyone throughout the year. I would love to be a part of the commission that celebrates the arts and continues to provide opportunities to the community throughout the year. Art is life and brings so much joy and confidence and vibrancy to many. I want to be part of that." So I would ask for a motion to approve Lori Fuller to a term ending June 30th, 2027.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by James. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Well, with that, I would ask the record to reflect that today is Mary Alice's birthday. Happy birthday, and we're adjourning before 8 p.m. on a Monday night.
Great birthday present, thanks.